Hi everyone. So this week we're going to talk about the wise sage, which is a character archetype. Now, you might remember archetypes from our study in December and January, but if you don't, that's okay because we're going to have a refresher right now to help you with this activity. So archetypes were developed by a guy named Carl Jung, who was a famous psychologist. He was a student of Sigmund Freud, and he created this term archetype and 12 different types of characters that we see either in our lives or in different stories or even in our dreams and our subconscious mind. And he called these Jungian archetypes after himself. The idea behind archetypes is that we see these recurring patterns of characters in our life or in literature that follow virtually identical character traits. Now, there are a lot of well-known examples. For instance, mothers are frequently shown with nurturing qualities, where children are often shown having a great deal of innocence. But there are 12 of these different Jungian archetypes, and I've linked them below. If you're curious about them, you can study them more. There are many of them, but we're going to focus in on the wise sage. So this particular archetype is a character who shares wisdom in the story. Now, originally Jung called this the senex, which means old man in Latin, but really this character could also be a woman. And they don't necessarily need to be old, but what they do need to be is wise. Okay, they need to share wisdom. So often this character is a knowledgeable mentor to the hero. Now, when Joseph Campbell took this idea and applied it to the epic and created his different version of this information to talk about the way stories develop and epic heroes develop, he tapped into that idea of the mentor. So when we talked about this in the wintertime, we used that term mentor. So you could think of the wise sage as that mentor figure. That's a synonym. So this character is going to offer advice, but never choose the path for the hero. They're just going to offer the path and say, I think this is a good idea. They seek the truth, they reflect on the events of the story, and they find a deeper meaning in them. And they often provide new perspectives on life. Now, there are many different well-known sages in literature, but I've pulled out 6 that I think are really great examples for you to help you to better understand this character type. So Yoda comes to us from Star Wars, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Glinda from The Wizard of Oz, Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings, Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid, and Mary Poppins from Mary Poppins stories. So let's take a look at some of the things that they offer as wisdom. So here are the words of Yoda. You must unlearn what you have learned. The greatest teacher failure is. Do or do not, there is no try. So those are some really deep thoughts. Dumbledore also has some really profound insights that he shares with Harry Potter. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be. Dark times lie ahead of us, and there will be a time when we must choose between what is easy and what is right. And also in this photo, you can see it is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. A lot of deep thoughts there from Dumbledore. Glinda also shares some things with us. Only bad witches are ugly. Now think about that quotation because it could be ugly on the outside or it could be ugly on the inside. You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself. So again, some deep thoughts. Now Gandalf shares with his companions these ideas. I must rest here a moment, even if all the orcs ever spawned are after us. He that breaks a thing to find out what it has left the path of wisdom. He that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom. Some believe that it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I've found. I've found that it is the small things, everyday deeds by ordinary folk, that keeps the darkness at bay. And I think that's one of the most that photo quotation is one of the most profound things that Gandalf says in the Lord of the Rings stories. Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid offers a lot of insight too. He says, if come from inside you, always write one. Daniel-san, lie become truth only if person wanna believe it. First learn stand, then learn fly. Nature rule, Daniel-san, not mine. Okay, so some deep, profound wisdom. Now he is speaking with an accent, and so that's why his lines are written that way. But they're really profound thoughts in those quotations. And then finally, Mary Poppins. There's the whole world at your feet, and who gets to see it but the birds, the stars, and the chimney sweeps? And just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down in the most delightful way. So this week, your task is to go into your independent reading book or a book you've recently finished and identify who the wise sage is in your story. And then find one meaningful quotation or piece of advice given to the protagonist by that character and explain why you think it's important and what it's meant to do in that story. Okay, there's a place for you to do that in the reading journal on Schoology. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm available both in office hours and on Schoology Messenger. I hope you have a great week, guys. Enjoy. Have fun reading.